And we are live. And we are live. Goodness me. Hello. Goodness me, we're about a minute late. How did that happen? I know how it happened because we've got a last minute guest. And I was just chatting to her and she could hear me clattering. She said, "You've been doing the washing up." I'm like, "How do you know?" Because I could hear you clattering. That's lucky. I mean, there's loads of things I could have been doing. Lucky the washing up was the least of it. I'm Neil Long. Hello and welcome to the show. We've got some really, really interesting guests today. One is a guest from a couple of days ago. We had her on Monday, and she was so good we wanted to get her back. We're going to talk to her at 12:30. But we've got some really, really interesting stuff to talk about. So we'll just do a couple of hellos and welcome you to the show. Let you get settled in, chill out a bit, have a drink, wind down, and get ready for what we've got to show you today and talk about, because it is going to be a good show, let me tell you. And loads of people on it as well. Any hellos? Anyone want a quick shout out while we're in the first minute of the show? Very happy to say hello to you and give you a hi and that sort of thing, because I know you like to be, involved and appreciated and shouted out and silence. You're going silent on me. That's okay. I can live with that. Comments, please, as always. Any questions you've got for our guests? We've got some really interesting stuff to talk about. Very happy to pass your questions onto our guests. I can put them on the screen for you and you can get involved. Barry J. Allen, a very good afternoon. Good sir, how are you? Nice to see you. Let's get our first guest on. Katie Paxton Fear. Hello.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Kevin Mountford, ladies and gentlemen. We're all here. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon to you, Neil.
Hi, good afternoon. And by the miracle of modern technology, we're all together. So a very warm welcome to you. Katie, tell us what brings you here. I've read the brief of this, but probably best if you explain it because it's really interesting.
Yeah, my name is Katie. I'm a lecturer in cybersecurity at Manchester Metropolitan University, and I'm also an ethical hacker, which means I hack companies and tell them how bad their security is before the bad guys do. And I'm very pleased to be here talking about scams with Raisin.
Now, scams with?
A raisin.
Am I going crazy? Scams with what?
Hi, Neil. Katie's referring to Raisin, which is an online savings marketplace that was involved in the research to show the extent of fraudulent activity across online and mobile.
Thank you very much for saving me there. I could not quite get what you were saying. I thought you said reason at first, and I'm like, well, obviously there's a reason you're here, and it didn't compute in my mind. Right. Thank you very much indeed for that. Go ahead and talk some more, Katie. I love the ethical hacker bit. This sounds fun. I have to say now, I do have a little bit of a hobby. You've probably seen the YouTube channels. I kind of like to bait scammers and orchestrate a bit of instant karma and waste their time. I know people have got many ways of doing it. It's one of my little hobbies. But you obviously do it in a much more ethical and safe way, probably. So tell us more, please.
Yeah, so the way like ethical hacking works is basically companies invite you to go have a look at their security, and then you get paid when you find something. So very straightforward. But of course, we don't just see security attacks as like actual hacking, but actually most security attacks are things like phishing that target individuals, particularly individuals that work for a company. And the rise of AI has meant the scale of these attacks are much larger than it's ever been before. My favorite scam baiting story is, though, I got one of those "Hi Mum" texts where they go, "Oh, hi Mum, sorry, it's me, I lost my phone." Obviously,
I've had one of those.
So I replied back, "How dare you contact me after what you did to this family?" They never replied.
So you can have some fun with it, yeah?
Definitely.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I think most of us get scams like this every day. And how easy is it when you go into a company to find a little chink in the armor? I mean, it must be just easy, I suppose, mustn't it?
So the kind of thing I do involves finding like technical vulnerabilities. So actually
Right.
it's quite difficult because a lot of companies, especially if they're inviting random hackers online to go hack them, usually have pretty good security. We can't use any kind of methods like phishing. We only stick to technical vulnerabilities, but certainly phishing is really, really common. I mean, I've
Yeah. So
gotten several.
you're trying to buck their system, not buck the people running the system.
Yes, because
Right.
that's not ethical, because
No.
people will trust you.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, some of the stuff that I've got a phishing email from my boss telling me he desperately needs gift cards immediately, and he's in
Oh
a
yeah.
really important board meeting. So I sent him the company credit card so he
Yeah,
could
good, good.
book
Because
this
bosses
item.
do when they're in board meetings. They need a WH Smith gift card. It's important for the running of the company. I get that. It's obvious.
I'm definitely going to get a promotion as well, for sure, for my loyalty.
Well, I think you should. I think you should, and for your speed of delivery too. Very well done to you,
Definitely.
Kevin. What brings you here this afternoon, sir?
So I'm the co-founder of Raisin UK, and as I said, Raisin is an online savings marketplace, and effectively, it's imperative that we give our customers the confidence that they're operating in a secured way and using the site as it was designed. But from time to time, we undertake relevant research, and basically, as we know that in this day and age, we're increasing the amount of interaction we have with mobile and online devices. And we're seeing a speed of change in terms of technical advancement, particularly things like artificial intelligence. But at the same time, it means that the fraudsters and scammers are also becoming more sophisticated. And our research shows that in the first quarter of this year, Brits were pretty much scammed out of over £1 billion. And I say then first quarter. And it's not just the financial implications. We're also seeing from our research how it affects people emotionally. So whether you're embarrassed because you've been caught out or you're angry, but also we
All
then lose
works.
confidence in these channels. And in this day and age, it's imperative we can trust them because that's the way that a lot of us, if not most of us, conduct our everyday needs.
I agree. I agree 100%. And you've hit on something we talk about an awful lot on this show, which is, of course, this show is very much also about mental health and well-being. And being scammed I mean, I would say that would be the least of it. You know, lack of trust or feeling angry. It can be an awful lot worse than that. We've all heard some absolute horror stories. So yeah, and it is right. People do need to be able to trust you, and of course, you want to be trusted, and without these pesky scammers getting in the way and ruining it. And I can quite understand why it evolves as well. It's like you say, the cleverer our technology gets, the clever the good guys get, the cleverer the bad guys get as well. It's like a non-stop game of cat and mouse. So both of you, what's the leading edge of this? What should people be watching out for at the moment, and how can people protect themselves? What are the red flags? I think that give the best bang for the buck for our audience today. What do they need to look for? How can they protect themselves? And of course, why they can trust you, Kevin, because
Well,
I'm sure
yeah, I mean, first and foremost,
and quite rightly so.
And from a Raisin perspective, in recognition of this, we've added a lot of relevant content to the site, which is raisin.co.uk. So there's a
put it on the
first
screen
port
for
of
you.
call. However, Kate is clearly the expert in terms of what to look out for and how best to address them. So we've got the right person on the call to pick up on those points, Neil.
Okay, no problem at all. Is that correct spelling?
Yep.
Perfect. Let's leave that up there if people want to go and check it out. Throw to Katie. So what do people need to watch out for? And to be fair, because we've got him here, what makes Raisin on the pioneering edge of looking after their customers?
Well, I think it's really telling that One Raisin is actually doing this research, because they actually found that most people don't report when they actually do get scammed. They're not reporting it to like the platforms, so say Facebook
Why?
or it's a good question.
Is it because they're
Could
too
be.
embarrassed? Or is it
There's
because it's really bloody hard to report? Have you ever tried reporting something online? I have. It's tough.
I think yes, that goes to it. There's also, I think, the scammers are kind of being very clever. So, for example, I see a lot of like in my local Facebook group. So I'm subscribed to like my local area's Facebook group. And there's a lot of people who are pretending to sell stuff. Literally today I saw like someone pretending to sell mattresses. And people are in the comments going, this is fake, this is fake. But obviously if the moderators of the group aren't active and don't see that, it can actually be up for a really long time before it gets removed. I think as well, people think, oh, it's really obvious that this is a scam, so I don't need to report it. But I think that does lead to under-reporting and platforms not realizing actually just how bad scamming is.
So first of all, what should people do if there's a scam, and where can they report it to? And then we talk about the red flags, which is really important, because I'm really big on this. If there's something that really peeves me, it's people getting scammed. And I think that I'm pretty savvy when it comes to scams. Touch wood, don't want to tempt fate. I haven't been caught yet. People have tried, but I see the red flags, and then I engineer a bit of karma for them and put it on my YouTube channel. But So
number one, report it to the platform. So usually it's in the 3 dots. Go there, press report and press. Usually it's scam, but you can also report it as spam. If enough people do that, the automated bots will just remove it first and then ask questions later.
right.
That's the first thing. Second thing is put something in the comments. Often scams and the way they kind of continue to propagate is because like some person doesn't know. Like you might know, I might know, but actually, you know, maybe my parents don't know and they see it and they'll click on it, or somebody, one of my neighbors will click on it.
Yeah.
It only takes a few kind of discussions to kind of give everybody like a warning off, right? So comment on it, report it, have those kind of discussions, but also part of it is just being very vigilant. Trust your gut. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
And that advice has come down the decades, you know, from time immemorial, and it does tend to be true. At one end of it, it's just people marketing the latest thing, which is legal but really over-marketed, and at the other end of it, it's just blatant dishonesty. And let's make it clear, it's everywhere. There is a scam or a possibility for a scam everywhere, in the places you would least expect it. It can come through your letterbox, it can come into your inbox. It can be on a phone call. I've had those phone calls. You're going to be arrested. You owe HMRC money and all that sort of stuff. You know.
And it's worth adding, Neil. I mean, there's thousands of cloned websites every day. So, you know, this level of activity is taking place. And as you say, it's coming from all angles. I mean, the one thing.
Tell us a bit about cloned websites, if you would, Kevin.
Well, just on that point, you were asking from a Raisin perspective, the kind of things we do is two-factor authentication. And I think that should be in place with any website that you're interacting, where there's personal information, financial information, but also as employers, that there's corporate fraud. And we put a lot of effort and weight behind training staff. So we'll have kind of cybersecurity training modules. We'll test staff members with, as Katie does with ethical hacking, we will send out phishing emails to see whether staff are picking up the red flags. So that's an important aspect. And whilst the fraudsters are getting more sophisticated, industry is equally looking to keep up to speed with technical changes as well.
Yeah, I've noticed relatively recently that whenever I buy anything online, I have to authenticate it within the actual app.
Yeah, and that's one of the things to look out for if there's.
And that's what you mean by double the double.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and watching out for
two-factor authentication. Sorry.
Yeah, and watching out for things like unusual payment options. You know, these are the red flags that you refer to. But no doubt Katie's got lots more examples of the red flags that you
Before
mentioned.
she does, can you just explain what unusual payment options means, please?
So it could be that normally it's outside of a PayPal or a recognized payment mechanism. And very often it's asking you to deviate from normal payment solutions to send money to different places, and things like, you know, we as individuals, and this is why I think it's important when we talk about reporting, it's actually talking about it. So you'll see that, I don't know, on social websites, whether it be a Facebook or whatever, people are going, my site's been hacked, don't accept a friend request from me, or whatever it might be. They're the kind of things that we are now starting to communicate amongst our communities or friends, family. So I think it's important that we kind of overcome the embarrassment or possibly the anger, because we are all susceptible to this and we're all at risk. So
And
we
the more we
need to
talk
talk
and the
about
more
it.
transparent we
Exactly.
are,
Yeah.
and the more we talk and the more this big gang of us, if you like, the good guys, is transparent and open with each other,
Yeah.
then the less they can do it, because you shine the light, because it hides in the dark, doesn't it? And I noticed what you said about deviating away from traditional payment formats. That's what they all do. They try and get you off a platform onto WhatsApp or something which is encrypted, or something which is, or less traceable, or something like that,
Yeah.
or get you to pay in Bitcoin or gift cards, like you said, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is laughable when you think about it, when you actually stop and think about it. But the techniques scammers use, I mean, the favorite one is to make you panic. Take action now. Panic, panic, panic.
Yeah.
If they can make you panic, the front part of your brain shuts down, and then logically, then that's when people make bad decisions. We've talked about that on this show an awful lot.
And the other thing, Neil, is sometimes where there's kind of degree of urgency. So concert tickets, for instance, that's been very much relevant in the news. Because of huge demand and limited supply, you sometimes cut corners just to get your hands on these tickets, and you could succumb to either fake tickets or payment to illegitimate sites, etc. So that's the emotive element of wanting to do something quickly, and you deviate from what is your normal cautious approach to these kind of things.
Really nicely said, because scammers will play on emotion, not logic. They don't want the prefrontal cortex of the brain. They want that limbic system to react and not even think. I'm gonna do. So we talk about a load of geeky science on this. You have to forgive me going into science speak, but yeah, you're stating absolutely true. It's been my experience as well. Now let's do some comments. Say a few hellos, then we'll throw back to you, Katie, because I want to hear more about all the latest ones going on. Robert Van Buren, hello to you. This is our resident comedian, Graham Pack. I thought ethical hacking was when you hug trees at the same time as hacking computers. He's not going to give up the day job just yet. Yeah, I can only apologise for him. He kind of trolls us, but in a fun way. We tolerate him. Hello all, says Liz. Paul Claridge, long-time friend of the show, says good afternoon. And a friend of mine runs a small but vital dog rescue charity. This is why it makes me angry. They fell victim to an online phone scam and lost over £26,000. Good God. It almost wiped out the charity. Their bank wouldn't help. Supporters stepped in and raised money to get charity back on their feet. Wouldn't mind knowing what they did actually, Paul, so we can shine the light on it on the show. Morning from the sunshine. Got scammed last week, not buying stuff online anymore. This is a company I deal with. Put in my card number for an offer from Goop, fronted out by Gwyneth Paltrow. Not one of those candles one would hope. I had to get a new card, living on cash. It was my only card. And Graham says, friend was scammed out of 40 grand from clicking on a Royal Mail text scam. I had one of those the other day, saying you owe money for a delivery. Luckily, he got the money back from his bank. So, Katie, I'm sure all these are really familiar to you, but maybe you'd like to add some more. What's the latest from the genius mind of our resident scammers?
It's interesting because a lot of these play on stuff that companies actually do, right? Like you can underpay your postage and Royal Mail will say, hey, you've underpaid your postage to deliver this, or you've got a customs fee. So quite a lot of them are based on the fact that we kind of do things in an insecure way by default a lot of the time. I think back to when I was buying my house and I had to transfer my life savings to my solicitor. And it's like, well, geez, I hope this isn't a scam, because there's no way to verify it's not, apart from to get them to give me more pieces of information.
Could you not do that in person, though? Could you not go down to this, or could we not go down to the post office and pay the fee there? Would that be a way around that?
Definitely. The top piece of advice I always give is your bank, when you call them, will ask security questions. They'll be like, can you confirm your date of birth and address? Ask the bank to do security questions. I got a phone call from a company claiming to be Amazon. And I said, well, when did I make my last order and what was it for? And they couldn't answer. And I was like, so what did I order on this date? And they couldn't answer. And it's like, well, in this case, it was kind of amusing because it was someone's third party selling through Amazon who were then trying to scam me out of more money than I'd already paid them for an Amazon thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, quite a lot of the time.
That's called the refund scam, isn't it? Is that the refund scam?
So it was a weird situation. I think they were basically pretending to be Amazon. because they were a third-party seller. I had to report them to Amazon for claiming to be them as well.
Yeah.
But they had I'd got a refund, then I'd paid it again, and then they'd said I hadn't paid it and I needed to pay again. So they were trying to scam me out 300 quid.
Right.
But the one I get a lot is people claiming to be my boss. Again, desperately need gift cards as soon as possible. I get that one literally daily.
Why would an average boss need a gift card? Help me understand this.
So I have heard through the grapevine of people who have genuinely done this and genuinely handed over a company credit card and gone, oh, hey, here's the credit card so you can do it yourself. But I think it just comes from the fact that, we do things in insecure ways quite a lot of the time, and people are kind of primed to do it. And as well, of course,
I think the reason for that is you've used the word perfectly, primed, because it's that they're basing it on a ring of truth or something that's already a bit familiar. Like, for example, if I've had to go down the post office and pay extra. I've ordered slimming shakes, not that they worked, from America, and I had to pay the extra on it. I had to pay it online, but it was genuine. So they're using stuff that would seem to be genuine. And as long as it's within the scope of what most of us would consider believable, then I suppose we're at greater risk of being guiled by it, right?
And you made a good point earlier, Neil, about security checks that we're asked to provide. You should turn it on its head. I mean, I got a call from somebody suggesting they were from a fraud department for the bank that I bank with, started asking me questions, and it was kind of getting into personal security related. So what is the name of your account or whatever, your password, etc. So I said, hang on, I'm going to ring my bank and I'm going to ask, or I asked them questions about my account, which they didn't know. So similar to Katie with Amazon, just have a bit of confidence and feel in your rights to put those questions back to whoever the caller is.
You see, the thing is, we're all so British and we all don't want to be rude, do we? But this, protecting your money isn't being rude. So far, report to the site. That's normally done on the 3 dots with the drop-down menu if you think you're being scammed. Number 2, comment and share it with other people. And number 3, I like this one, turn it back on them, because if they're genuine, they would be able to answer these questions. Surely they're in your account and they've got all the details in front of them. They'd be easily able to answer these questions if they were genuine, right?
Yeah, and I would add to that, Neil, some of the basic ones around things like password configuration. Make sure that you are putting the right degree of control around passwords. And as I said earlier, the dual authentication. Any option you get to add security, going back to the Raisin research, 1 in 10 don't have any level of security or don't use it or don't keep it up to speed. So they're the weaknesses that we can then obviously increase the risk of fraudulent activity.
Yeah, so there's an awful lot we can do to take care of ourselves. I remember Nationwide Building Society, they did a nice anti-scam thing and they called it Take 5. And they used that classic line, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Stop, take 5 minutes, sit down, have a cup of tea and think about it. Don't react emotionally. Don't think, oh my God, I've got to fix this now. I'm about to be arrested. I'm about to lose all this money. Oh my God. That's what they want. That's what they want. They will play on your fear. Anything else to add, Katie? I'm sure you could tell us loads. Tell us some more. Or either of you.
Trust your gut. If you're looking at something like that doesn't seem right, like I don't get a good vibe, or just looking at the way something information is presented to you. I'll use my mattress example. The picture that was like, I'm selling a bunch of mattresses that I've got too much stock of. The picture was taken with a potato. It was super blurry, super grainy. But if you think about it, most modern smartphones take pretty good photos. You can quite clearly see what is being photographed.
Yeah,
it's difficult to say, oh yeah, that's always going to be it's always going to be low quality images, because it's not. Just keeping your wits about you and trusting that instinct. Again, not falling for that kind of immediate response. I need this right now, or whatever. that kind of more I don't know, like I don't get good vibes from this actually
And it's
can
not
do a
rude
lot.
to challenge people, because if
No,
people
it's
are
not.
genuine, if I was asked to prove I was genuine, I would have no problem proving I was genuine. Of course, I understand, show my ID or whatever, and any genuine person wouldn't be offended by that. So I think if people get offended or angry if you're asked to do that and they don't, there's a red flag. Also notice in the written scams, where, I don't know, King Okomboko from some African subcontinent has died and they want to put 20 million US dollars in your account and you can keep 18 million of it, but you have to pay them a fee first, blah, 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 all that. The English tends to be very bad as well. That's what is a very instant red flag for me. If it's poor English, poor spelling, pidgin English. A friend of mine, someone tried to scam. Do you know, you're familiar with the website Fiverr? It's basically an online marketplace where you can, Fiverr with 2 R's. And I set my friend up on there the other day, and immediately she got an order, and they were saying, we need to check your security on Fiverr, and they spelt it wrong with 1 R. Now, if that was someone from the genuine Fiverr with 2 R's, they're not going to spell their own company name wrong. They're just not, are they? So, keep an eye out for things like that.
I think as well, with a lot of scams, we often see things like investments, like invest in this, buy this cryptocurrency. Really putting your money when it comes to investments in like registered schemes, not just some random person on a Facebook group's advice, going to a proper savings provider, going to a bank, using like an investment broker.
But it seems
always
so
going to be safer.
obvious, though. I mean, I agree with you fully, and I can't disagree with the word you're saying, but that would seem obvious. Why do people fall for it?
But there's a problem there when we said earlier about the emotive impact, the embarrassment, because you reflect and go, oh my goodness, how did I succumb to that? And the realization around it. And that's where, as I say, people then tend to keep quiet about it because they can see that they shouldn't have fallen for it, but they do. We all live busy lives, and that's the problem again. That's something that the fraudsters take advantage of.
Absolutely, yeah. Any little chink in the armor, any weakness. I mean, there was one, a friend of mine. She ran me absolutely terrified, and it wasn't true. But they said they'd caught her looking at illegal pornography, which was completely untrue, and they had her password, and they did have her password, and that really scared her.
You see that a lot.
And that's a blackmail scam. I don't quite know how they got her password, but I've got a friend of mine that used to be a police officer, so I rang her up and I said, right, what to do? And it was basically run malware, change the password, and then forget about it.
It's usually via data breaches. You can actually look up if your email and password appears in one. I promise this website is completely safe. It's called Have I Been Pwned? PWN. And you can put in your email address and it will tell you if your email has appeared in any data breaches, and you can put in your password. And it doesn't put it in your computer. You're not sending your password anywhere. Again, I promise it's safe. Though,
is it have I been pwned.com? Right, let's pop it on the screen.
PWN, not PO. But yeah, you can type in your password. It is completely safe for you to do, I absolutely promise. And it will tell you if your password has appeared in the data breach. And I think my email is in 24 breaches. And my password has also appeared. So obviously now I don't use that password. I use a password manager.
Have I got that right now on the screen? Is that right?
Yes. Have I been pwned?
Good. Yes, I get that a lot. Your password has been exposed to data breaches. I've just kind of, given up, but it's only password for email and stuff like that. But and if your password has been breached, what's the way of stopping these data breaches? What did you say you used? A password manager? Can you explain
Password manager. So a password manager is a piece of software that essentially allows you to store passwords in it, and it's really. I promise you, it's safe. It uses encryption.
Is it something? Is it something like 1Pass or something like that?
Yeah,
is
1Password, LastPassword,
Robo something. I've had this before and it does work. You have one master password which you use for all your passwords. So you basically put all your passwords in this software, but you access them all by one master password. Is that right?
Yes, and to actually log in, you need to have a physical piece of paper that has like a physical key on it. So even if somebody has that master password, they actually can't log into your account without that and a piece of
Right.
paper that you print out and that you store with your passport and like in a
I
filing
never had that
cabinet.
before. The one I had, I can't remember what it was called. I think it was RoboPass or something. I can't remember, but there wasn't that piece of paper. That's new. So again, that's evolved since I did that.
I
Anything either of
recommend
you would
one
like?
password.
Anything either of you would like to add? And thank you for doing this research as well, Kevin. It's helpful to all of us. This stuff really, and it's good to know the statistics as well. I mean, that the amount of money that's been scammed, that figure that you quoted, it's just unbelievable. So stay safe, everyone. And anything you'd like to add, either of you?
No, I think it's just important, as you say, that you recognise the risks and you take every step possible to avoid getting caught out. And if you do get caught out,
Yeah.
don't think you're alone at this. It's affecting, as our research says, millions of people, and we are being attacked on all fronts. So, you know, if you do succumb to it, make sure that you take some action accordingly. And again, going back to our industry is trying to keep ahead of the game. There are lots of things. I mean, I got notification from my smartphone for exactly the same thing. There's several of your passwords you've not changed for however long, and you know the other thing is we think some might have succumbed to data breach. But you know, from a Raisin point of view, we do everything that we can to ensure that customer data is protected because we understand the implications. Because there's brand reputation as well for us as a provider. So we're all trying to counter this risk, and hopefully we can all work together and make things improve.
And or prosper through it. I mean,
Yeah.
the best marketing is where people know you, like you, and trust you, and that comes from marketing experts. You can use all the clever tricks in the world, legal ones, but ultimately, if they know you, like you, and trust you, they're going to buy from you. That's certainly how I operate. Raisin.co.uk, and you say there's lots of information on there talking about all the
There
findings
is.
and
Yes,
stuff. Is there?
there's
That's
online safety tips and advice
brilliant.
on how to kind of keep yourself safe.
Any other websites you'd like to talk about that you'd like me to draw people's attention to before I let you go?
Nothing from my perspective. I know, Katie, you've mentioned
Katie?
quite a few, but
I mean, Have I Been Pwned is great for looking up if your data is in a data breach, but I just want to echo what Kevin just said there. You know, if you fall for a scam, it's not your fault. They are convincing. Like,
And that's what they want you
that-
to do. They want you to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
They want you to go and hide in the dark with them. Don't.
they want you to just like not tell anyone so they can keep on doing it. But certainly being aware of those scams, having a look at something like the Raisin report where they have a look at like what the top scams are, that will give you almost like a vaccination against some scams.
Great.
just one other final tip, Neil, because
Yes, indeed.
once upon a time, I'm talking about how kind of mobile digital devices are helping us. In many respects, we used to get a bank statement maybe every month through the post. You can now access your banking transactions daily. Have a look at those frequent, unrecognized, small value transactions because you'll see over time they build up and accumulate. That's another telltale sign that somebody's hacked into your account. So they're not necessarily going to take hundreds of pounds out of your account in one go. They try to take little and often, and it builds up over time. So just take a little bit of, as I say, vigilance and check these things out.
Brilliant advice. Thank you both so much for being on. I'm sorry about the misunderstanding about Raisin at the beginning.
All right.
I'll put that on the outtakes reel. What? lovely to speak to both of you, and I'm always happy to talk about this. Come and see us again as well, and all the best and good luck with everything, and stay safe. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks for having us, Neil.
No, you're both really welcome. Lovely to speak to you both. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There we go. End of part one. So just to recap, number one, report it if you think you're being scammed. There's those little 3 vertical dots, and if you click on there, there's normally a drop-down menu. Comment, talk to other people. This is social media at its best. So the more social and open we are, the more it helps. Turn it back on them. Ask them some security questions. And obviously make a really complex password if you can as well. And I'll pop those other websites on before the end of the show. Got another guest to bring on in just a moment. We'll just wind up this segment, and then Lucy Cavendish, I'm going to bring you right on. Elizabeth Green from New York. The hardest one lately is the companies that want to help me publish my book online. As I said, they're everywhere. Do the PR, etc., everything. They're called Penguin, after a couple of Amazon named ones I've been chatted to nicely. And I really want to do everything they offer, any of them to be trusted. I didn't see that before we had our guests on. I would drop Kevin an email at Raisin, Elizabeth. I'm sorry, I would have asked him that had I seen that before. I beg your pardon. Paul says the scam that affected my friend's charity was simple. Phishing, fraudsters impersonating the charity's bank, where someone at the charity failed to check the validity of the email, which was initially for a small amount of money. The fraudsters quickly transferred the larger amount to an account. It was then transferred from that account to another before disappearing. It took a matter of minutes. One arrest was made, but the charges were dropped due to whatever they were. And Graham, our resident comedian, I was scammed by my wife years ago. Before we got married, she said she'd cook, clean, and generally look after me. Once she signed the marriage certificate, those things never happened, which leads us very nicely onto our next segment from the lady that's written the book all about good relationships.
Yay!
You're a brave man. You're a brave man putting that comment when we got Lucy Cavendish on the show. Let me tell you.
Very brave man. I just want to say something about scamming. Can I say
Please
something?
do.
I got scammed. I got really, really scammed. Yes. And I wrote about it, and it was published in the Daily Mail. And the reason why I wrote about it is precisely what you've said is, it's not embarrassing. I mean, it is. I mean, I totally get the shame. I felt so ashamed, but it's very easy to be preyed on, much easier. You're an intelligent person. You think, oh, it won't happen to me. But, we're busy and we're emotional creatures. And I wanted to buy a holiday for my kids, and a Bitcoin thing came up and it said it was Martin Lewis, and it wasn't. I didn't do due diligence, and I got scammed. And then I wrote about it. I didn't get my money back. It's very, 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 very hard to get your money back. But, there we go. But I just want to let people know, it's so rife, and don't be ashamed. And that's why I wrote about it, because I wanted people to read about it not hide in shame.
It is. And the thing is, it is true that we're intelligent people, but I think that can almost be a little weakness because we think we're above it.
Yeah, so I won't get scammed. My poor mother.
And there's no shame to doing that due diligence or any of the other tips. Can you just tilt your computer, the top of your computer, forward a little? That'll just move you a bit more central into that. That's much better. That is beautiful. Thank you very much indeed. So we had you on Monday, and I'd like to just really talk more about your book and about having great relationships with people.
Yes.
That's one of the, or should be one of the best things in life, relationships, surely.
Okay. I'm going to wave my book. Here we go.
I knew you would. How to have extraordinary relationships.
With
Lucy Cavendish.
And there is a page you can sign up to that's actually live. Do I say it? It's www.
I'm going to put it on the screen. Just go slow enough for me to type it. Let's pop it on the screen.
It's www.lucycavendishextraordinaryrelationships.com if you want to know more about the book or about extraordinary relationships.
Well, quite. Or about an extraordinarily long domain name.
Yeah. yeah. I don't make life easy, people.
That took me 20 seconds to do that.
Sorry for the lull. Yes. Okay. So the reason I wrote the book is because I am a journalist and also a therapist, and I changed my life about 10 years ago for all sorts of reasons.
Right.
Stop really being a newspaper journalist, although I do some stuff on therapy, and retrain because I'm so interested in people and why they do what they do. And also, I don't think most therapists are wounded healers. We're not securely attached human beings that walk through the world going, hello, what's not to like? We are wounded people ourselves. So part of it is, working actually your own therapy out too, not on your clients, but in your training. It's very, very rigorous.
I remember when I had some therapy, a lovely lady called Rosie Whetstone, who I always shout out on the show. And she told me that in her therapist training, she had therapy too. Because I'm aware of the term wounded healers. But one thing I did notice when I studied some NLP, there was an awful lot of, and NLP wasn't like a formal like years training. It was like a week, and they gave you a load of techniques. But I noticed so many people in that world basically trying to heal their own lives by healing other people.
Yes.
But without really doing the work on themselves first.
Yeah, it's complicated. I mean, I don't think we should be going around healing ourselves through other people's pain, because as a therapist, you're the professional. That's the idea. But obviously, you need your own therapy. So I've been through a lot of that. I've done a lot of training. I see a lot of clients. I do a lot of coaching now as well. So I'm really in that world and I love it. But and I've been writing a lot about it because I basically want to help as many people as I possibly can do.
Absolutely.
And therapy is expensive. We've only got a certain amount of hours in a day.
Yeah.
And Quadrille Press came and said, would you like to write a book on relationships? And the thing I wanted to really hone in on is that when we go through crisis, I think we have relationships all over the place, but when we're in crisis, what really helps us through is our relationships with other people. It doesn't have to just be our partner if we have a partner, but also with our friends, our family, our world, our children.
What helped me the most when I had a bit of a mental health dip about 4 years ago, and I've been very open about it on the show, was having the right people around me. And what I defined as right, and tell me if you agree with this, it was people where you could take your mask off and be absolutely authentic in front of them and really allow yourself to feel what you really did feel and articulate that. Not what you should be feeling, not what the world might expect you to feel, not what your demanding auntie wants you to feel, what you actually feel, and be able to really come to terms and own your own stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's really key. And again, you're getting into realms of shame. So let's say someone's had a very painful marriage breakup, and many of us have had very painful marriage breakups, myself included. Right. And there's a point at which you feel you can't keep talking about it. I mean, after a month, people are saying things like, oh, you dating again? Dating again, your heart's broken. You're not going to date again for years. We're near dating again. And you start putting on yes, I'm fine, everything's great, and then you cry on your own, and that is not a healthy way to be.
No,
because it's sad, it's desperately sad and lonely, and lots of us go into sad and lonely places. But actually, what you need is people around you that can hear you, that can sit with you, that don't hassle you, aren't hurrying you, they're not trying to fix you. So in the book, it's 7 stages of how to have these relationships, where you can move things in a direction you want them to be in, and you can say what you feel without going into a place of sort of denial or anger, because a lot of people get very angry and defensive, and then all relations break down. If someone says to someone, you make me feel this way, the other person's already got their mace wearing because they feel they're being attacked.
Well, I suppose if you use the phrase I read once in a relationship book, if you use phrases like you always, you never, the superlatives, you always make me feel this way, you never do this. But it's all about, I suppose we come to the point, as we heal, and become more mature, it's not so much sometimes about what the other person does, but our response to it.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think what you were talking about, what the wonderful guests were talking about scamming, actually, in the Buddhists talk about it, is this concept of the pause. So we get very heightened up very quickly about our emotions, and you did this and you did that, and we don't pause. So one way to talk to someone, instead of saying you always do this or you make me feel, therapists say something which I think people find incredibly irritating, which is no one can make you feel anything. It's you that makes you feel it. I don't know. I don't stick to that 100%, because if I had someone running at me with a machete, I am going to feel fear, and I am going to, want to respond. I'm not going to sit there and take a pause and think, I'm wondering if, this fear is the correct response. So obviously there are situations where you're going to feel things very quickly, but you can dial down the reactions and have a much more communicative dialogue with someone.
I think you're right. And I think putting a bit of extra science to this as well. After this, I'm going to ask you to go through the 7 chapters, by the way, because I want to hear all about this wonderful book of yours. I've been reading a lot about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. And the sympathetic one is when you need that burst of adrenaline, and if someone's running at you with a machete, you're not going to really consider whether some homeopathic nutrition might actually help you.
Let me tell you in a ginkgo, you know, you're going to,
and that makes you human, and we need that short burst of energy. But the problem is, what a lot of us do is we're in that sympathetic nervous system 90% of the time when it should be 1% of the time.
yes.
And that's when we get the excess cortisol, which has got nowhere to go because we're not getting rid of it, because we're not out in nature and all these sorts of things. Animals kind of do that shaking, they shake it off, don't they? If a gazelle's been faced or something, we don't.
We don't do
we
that.
go and see therapists, and rightly so. But in the parasympathetic nervous system, that's when it's like, take 5 minutes, stop, rest, digest. But I think a lot of people are so hyped and triggered, they're just kind of triggered into that sympathetic nervous system all the time. And that's when the thoughtless reactions come out. You make me do this, you make me do that. And then, of course, you're right, the other person feels attacked, and we get nowhere. Apparently the Buddha said that, which is pretty clever, as you would expect from the Buddha.
Do something, stand there. Well, that's like the theory when you're being attacked by a herd of cows, which I have been. I mean, cows are very random creatures, but
no, I've heard some terrible stories about cows. They surround and crush you, apparently.
It's really frightening. Really frightening. And it's because they're young cows, I think. And they're like, what are you doing here? They come after you. You have to stand and make yourself
I think
really
that's bullocks.
big. And they go, they go, wah! Anyway, we're going off piece. Yeah, anyway, what's very interesting, there's so much, is that the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system is something we're really learning about. I mean, 10 years ago, you wouldn't have known what anyone was saying when they said that. You know, if you had talked about that long, everyone would have gone, what on earth is he going on about?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is the fight, flight, reptilian brain. It's the really quick reaction.
And that's the sympathetic.
That's the sympathetic. And that's when you act sort of mindlessly, but also sometimes appropriately. You know, run. Someone's coming at you with a machete, run. But it is very much our reptilian brain. So to engage our more sophisticated brain, that's when you need to do, you know, breathe.
Exactly, and many exercises and we need that reptilian brain for a bit. Otherwise, put in a rather silly way, but someone could be running at us with machetes all day, and we go, "Oh, it's all right, I'm really zen," you know. And that's not going to work.
We're much longer. I mean, we could go into that as well. You know, what is an appropriate reaction? I remember sometimes someone says, you know, can you stop? What's going on with you? I think I would find that quite hard, to be perfectly honest.
Of course, we would. Anyone would. We don't want to take these. Yeah, we don't want to take these things to a ridiculous extreme. Otherwise, they lose their potency. But ultimately, all healing, according to what I've been reading, all resolution, all the good stuff, all the stuff we do in therapy, or even all the spiritual stuff, it happens in the parasympathetic, not the sympathetic, and that's what it's designed for. And it's just getting back into that as much as we possibly can. Creativity, parasympathetic. You know, sympathetic is kind of overrated, but we use a lot of it nowadays, don't we?
Yeah, we use a lot of it because we're in a very fast world, and we also have an attachment to busyness. So if I meet people and they say, "Oh, I'm busy all the time," it's like they get a gold star because busy is good.
I've heard a term for it. I heard it in the 90s, busyholism.
Busyholism, yeah. I'm like, actually, we all need to calm down a bit. We all need to slow down a little bit. But there was something else which we touched on Monday about what happens in your brain and your neuroplasticity. So if you are a baby and you are an anxious baby, and babies aren't, in my book, born anxious, maybe stuff is going on around you. You don't know you're a baby, but you're anxious.
Apparently they're born with only two fears, babies, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noise. Everything else is just conditioning from the environment.
Yeah, startle reflex, fear of falling. You'll see that in babies a lot, the startle reflex. But let's say you've got, I'm not blaming anybody for this, I'm just talking. So let's say you've got a mother that has postnatal depression who's not able to fully attend to the baby through no fault of her own, but she can't. The baby might become an anxious baby because it doesn't know when it's going to be fed. It doesn't know when it's going to be held. It doesn't know if its nappy is going to be changed, you know, all these things. The baby will start having that cortisol response that comes into the baby. So the fight, flight, freeze response in the baby gets very embedded in the baby's brain. So,
and they say that it's all the first 7 years of life, and until we do that kind of self-examination, therapy, reflective thing, most people are living out of the conditioning out of their first 7 years, which is a bit like saying most adults are being run by an inner 7-year-old.
Yes, that's right. And do you want a 7-year-old driving your car? Do you want a 7-year-old in
No.
charge of your life? No, you don't.
No.
Because
Do I
7-year-old
want that 7-year-old? Yes, I do. Do I love that 7-year-old? Yes, I do. It's a bit like a new puppy. It's a puppy. You'd nurture it. You'd make it feel loved. You'd care for it, but you won't let it wreck the house.
Exactly. So you've got to be very lovely to your 7-year-old that's trying to run the show, because it's trying to save you. You know, it's trying to help you. That's the thing. It sort of goes.
This is known as inner child. This is known as inner child work, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it's like saying it's fine because I'm not 7. I'm a grown adult. I can manage it. You know, it's all good. It's very difficult. It's much bigger work, much longer work. But that is where I'm getting to with this book, in a way, a little bit, because you know, people find it very difficult when you say, actually, you need to calm down. You need to sort of learn self-soothing tactics so that you don't go into this pace of fight, flight, freeze. Because if you're a baby that's had that so ingrained in your brain, you know, it's the neuroplasticity is really building up that you must do something like that. It's very angry people do that. That's anyway.
And I noticed a lot of people go there very easily, and I also notice I think that's what I was saying. A lot of people go to that angry place very quickly. But it's been hardwired in since they were infants. It's going to take some awareness to go, actually, maybe this isn't because we don't see the world as it is. We tend to see the world as we are, don't we? And so so because that's been hardwired in, their very perception of the world would be somewhere where they've got to fight and battle and struggle and all that sort of stuff. Until that inner work is done, you begin to realize that's not actually the whole enchilada.
No, and you don't want to spend your life in struggle. Everything's difficult, everything's exhausting, all your relationships go wrong, you know. You don't want to spend your life in struggle, and you don't want to spend your life being angry. So I practice going around being as lovely as I possibly can be to everybody. I really do. Right. So I smile, I comment at them, I talk to the lady in the shop, I say, gosh, your hair looks great. The angry man, it's generally men more than women, but not all the time, who thinks I've taken his parking space. I say, fine, you obviously need this parking space more than me, be my guest. And actually, what's really interesting is how much people light up and open up. It's like we're living in a world, everyone's like this, and they're sad and lonely and angry, and no one's noticing them. It's really, and then it feels great. It's actually quite simple.
So it's actually, you're really doing yourself, because they say all true benefits are mutual, don't they? So by being that way to others, you are being that way to yourself, which is a benefit to you. And consequently, you personally will live in a healthier, brighter world than the angry person over there. So it's worth doing. I'm not in any rush, by the way. Now we've changed to the midday show. We can go on beyond 1 o'clock. So I want to hear all about your book. So if you need to bust out at any point, let me know. But if you want to stay and talk for a little bit longer, I'm more than happy to listen. Talk us through your book. Come on. How do we have wonderful relationships?
How to have wonderful relationships. So the foreword in the book is by Catherine Woodward Thomas, who is my mentor. And I don't know if you know who she is. She wrote
I know that name.
Yes, she wrote Conscious Uncoupling. That's what she got very famous for, because Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin consciously uncoupled quite a long time ago, and Americans went, hey, yeah, this is great, and British people fell apart laughing and thought it was like the nuttiest thing they'd ever heard.
Well, as we think most things that come out of America, we think is the nuttiest thing, but there is actually something in this. Is it her that does the? Did she do the course on Mind Valley? Was that her on Mind Valley?
Yeah, she does Mind Valley. I love Mind Valley. Mind Valley is brilliant. I do a lot of stuff with Mind Valley, and I think Mind Valley is fantastic. Catherine does Calling in the One and Conscious Uncoupling, and also through Mind Valley. And I'm now certified in both of those because I've trained with her, because I think she's amazing. So she's very kindly written the foreword. And then my chapters are active listening. We can't demonstrate that because active listening takes forever. But essentially, it's one person sitting and listening to the other person and repeating what they've heard and not interrupting. Because what we generally do is wait for someone to stop talking so we can say our bit. We're not really listening to what the other person says. So with couples, when I counsel couples, I ask them to do this. And what's very interesting, I say, okay, it's very interesting. One of you will talk. in little small bites, and the other person will repeat what they've said. Just say, what I've heard you say is. So someone says things. So I start with appreciations, because it's much better to start positive. Start with the good. Don't start with the bad. Don't say, don't put the bends out. Start with the good. Says, I really appreciate the fact you made me a cup of tea this morning. And the other person may say something like, I heard you say you love me because I look after you really well. And that isn't actually what they've said. So it's really interesting. It sounds simple. It's not simple. It's actually quite difficult. But what it's doing is encouraging people to sit back a bit and listen to someone without kind of butting in or saying you shouldn't say this, or, you should do that, or no, that's. So you're really attuning to each other. The next chapter is empathy, which is, you're walking across the bridge, hearing how someone feels. I imagine that must make you feel. So, I mean, some people find empathy very easy. Lots of people find it very difficult. Some people are overly empathic, which means they take on everyone's pain. The people that are constantly there for you and do things for you, and that energy is actually not that healthy either.
Well, they're the ones that attract narcissists, aren't they?
Yeah, overly empathic.
So, what is the healthy balance of empathy? Because I think I've got this one about right. I think I could be wrong.
Oh, well, tell me. What's your balance?
Being willing to listen to someone, have compassion for them. I think, isn't there a Buddhist phrase, weep with one eye? Which means
we're really getting on the Buddhism. Yeah,
we are. But the way I interpret that, it means, so you have compassion for them and for their suffering. Right, let's take a perfect example. When I first saw the pictures of Russia invading Ukraine, and I would just see the normal everyday, the 21-year-old Ukrainian single mum, normal people like you and me, holding her baby, absolutely terrified, understandably. That really upset me.
Yeah.
But I've got to the point where, do I still feel compassion for it? Of course. Do I want it to stop? Yes. Do I think Putin's a megalomaniac, narcissistic lunatic? Yes. But going around getting upset about it isn't going to help anyone.
Yes, I think that's right. So I mean, I think so. One thing is, people that are very empathic, other people emotionally evacuate over them. So they take in everyone's emotions. That's not actually that healthy. You have to have your boundaries. So empathy is, I hear what you say. I hear that feels really awful for you. Yes, I feel that. But you're not extending yourself so far that there's no you anymore. There has to be a you.
Exactly, because people that overgive in relationships, they tend to lose themselves.
Yeah, they've got codependent and they don't really know who they are anymore.
And let's be honest, that's not, and that isn't healthy, is it?
No, it's not healthy. So quite often I say to people, you really need to get your boundaries in place. And they'll say, what are boundaries? Lots of people don't know what boundaries are, mainly, for all sorts of reasons, but mainly they've grown up in families where there really aren't very many boundaries. They don't really know what boundaries mean. And in terms of, so I'm okay, you're okay. I'm here and I'm okay, and you're there and you're okay. And we're fine, and we can, interact with each other. And I can hear your pain, but I'm not responsible for fixing your pain. I'm not responsible for taking on all your pain like a pain body. So I now have I hope I'm not talking too much jargon, but I now have your pain body.
No, you're not. That makes sense to me.
And I'm
that would be a bit like, I mean, that's the emotional equivalent of someone having a broken leg and then me going to break my leg as well so they feel better. Then what use am I to them anyway?
No use. Exactly. So you get stuck. You get stuck in this whole thing of nothing moves. So the other thing I was saying in the book, at the end of each chapter, there's tips. There's 3 tips, 3 strategies, and 3 actions, because nothing changes unless you take an action. And a lot of books, I think, don't have that bit. Or what are you going to do about it? So a lot of people say, I'm really worried about this. I say, great. You're worried about it. I hear it. So what are you going to do? Because we can worry forever. And it's fine. Of course, we're worried about things. I worry about things all the time. Then I have to check in. Is this actually healthy? Where's it going? Am I just sitting here worrying and kind of getting myself in a stew about things?
I think that's right. I think Paul McKenna came up with something brilliant. I think Paul McKenna is really, really good. Yeah, and he called it worrying well in one of his books. And he brought in a really good business metaphor. Most people worry, but they just leave it there. So it's just the ruminating going round and round and round and round and round. And let's be honest, it gets us nowhere. but they leave out the next stage, and the next stage is what they do in business, which is potential downside planning. So you could call the worrying the downside, but then start brainstorming solutions, which most people don't do because they're too busy bloody worrying, right?
Yes, people get stuck in the worry, and they quite like it in the worry. Taking action is much more difficult. So that leads to chapter 3, which is changing the narrative, because we all tell ourselves a story. The story is no one wants me, or I can't do this, or, you know, or I'm too much, or I haven't got any friends. You know, there's a whole narrative.
You name it.
Yeah. I mean, it's what I call the rabbit hole. Where are you going to?
So what I'm hearing you say is that everyone has got the stories which they're living out. And until we change that narrative, we can't make changes in our life, but we can change it. Yeah. That was me active listening, by the way. How did I do?
Did really well.
Thanks.
You're my top client. Yeah, I mean, so I had a narrative. I mean, you know, I had a father who was a very, very charismatic alcoholic man. And I had a narrative that I was his sort of special chosen one. And I walked through the world and I couldn't let go of him. He died a long time ago of alcoholism, actually. He died in 2000 or something. But I was still walking around in this sort of slight, you know, this strange place of kind of living this a bit through being his daughter. I'm 57. No, I'm 57. I'm not 12. And at some point I woke up and thought, this isn't helping me. You know, it wasn't helping me. You know, in lots of ways. I won't go on about that. But actually, I thought I need to change the narrative. I'm a grown woman. I don't need to be his daughter anymore. I can be a fully grown person.
And you can keep the good bits. It's not like being disloyal or being disloyal to the men, isn't it? You can keep the good bits, but we're evolving beings, and we have to move on.
Beings, yeah, we need to grow up sometimes. And so sometimes people say, "Oh, grow up." No one likes being told that, but people say it because what they're saying is you're stuck. Actually, you're stuck in a narrative from when you were very young. A lot of women do it. Actually, I say that maybe I talk to more women than men, but they really. They say sorry a lot. They apologize.
Everyone does that. If I bump into someone and they say sorry, I just put that down to being British.
Yeah, but people apologize. Sometimes I'm with people and they're apologizing for existing, and it makes me really sad. You know, I get very sad when people do that. Or my pet thing is when people leave phone messages and go, "Hi, it's only me." Never say it's only me. If there's one thing that comes out of this conversation, I don't want anyone ever to leave a message that says it's only me. Everybody is wonderful. Never, well, not everybody. Putin isn't wonderful, but don't say only me. Yeah, don't say only me. So
it's not only me. It's profoundly me. It's absolutely me. It's just me.
Yeah, it's me. Only me. It's like, wow, where did that come from? My sister did that, bless her. You know, and I said to stop doing it. You know, you're a valid, wonderful woman. Why are you saying only me? Anyway.
Did she stop doing it?
No. Sometimes you can say things to people, but they don't necessarily want to hear.
Lead the horse to water, so to speak. Yeah, absolutely.
Chapter 4 is healing yourself.
Right.
So that's going and doing a lot of breath work, a lot of inner work, a lot of kind of finding tools and techniques so that you can talk yourself. You know, it's like going into the false self. No one wants me. I'm not chosen. No one loves me. I can't do anything. I'm an imposter. Huge amounts of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And wake yourself to actually the truth of the matter is I'm really good at what I do. I'm very good at my job. I have great relationships with my friends. My children really, you know, I have a good relationship with my children. Wherever you're winning at life, you know, whatever. Even if it's I get up every morning and read for 5 minutes, whatever.
And we're probably winning an awful lot more than we think we are because we've all got a negativity bias. And a wonderful teacher that I've learned with says, you know, look for the micro appreciations. A lovely cup of coffee or a lovely affirmation is, I have everything I need. I'm one integrated being. I have everything I need already, right now, right here. We've all got that potential.
I love that.
And in doing that, you're not constantly trying to grab it from the outside for validation. Because if you know you already have it, why would you?
Yeah, I have everything I need right here. I mean, the most exciting part of the day, that maybe I've ever said to you. When I wake up in the morning, one of my first thoughts is, oh, great, I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I love having a coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think, great, now's the time I can have a cup of coffee. And off I go. And then it makes me happy. So
because then you've kind of primed your mind to look for more things to appreciate, and we get more of what we focus on, of course.
Exactly. This is what we're doing very well here. I hope everyone is going to hire you as their therapist. Chapter 5, you are responsible for your relationships. So that is radical responsibility. It's not other people, it's you. Look at the common denominator. People come in and say, oh, everyone leaves me, and I blah, blah, blah. Well, the common denominator in that is you. So it's you we need to
Now,
share.
I have to ask something here, because I've been at this point, but I've been through stages of having somewhat low self-esteem, and looking at yourself when you've already got a negative opinion of yourself. It's like looking at yourself through a tainted lens that could potentially make things worse. So how do you look at yourself with love and do this work, rather than looking at yourself in the negative way, which is probably what caused this in the first place? And I must plug my computer in, so please you talk and I'll plug myself in.
I'm going to do another 5 minutes and I've got to go. I would do something like this, which is in the book. I would do what I call a body scan. So, the first thing you can do, and it's very, is you can do your body scan like so, and then you can go for your body and think which parts of me are working well. So even if the only thing you can find is your little toe is, healthy in a good way, you can thank your little toe. So you start thanking your body for all the good stuff it does for you, and then you're beginning to get some self-esteem. Then you can go through all the things that you do that are good. I mean, literally anything. Do sometimes opening your eyes and getting up is a massive achievement. Sometimes I don't want to get up. I'm like, oh, so I think, okay, get up. And that's a big achievement. For a lot of people, that's a massive achievement. Great, I got up. I got in the shower. I put my clothes on.
So you're basically saying a practice of self-appreciation.
Yeah, and it's a practice. It's a practice. So even if there's only one thing you like about yourself, there's one thing you will like about yourself physically. There's probably more things. A therapist sometimes asked a client of mine before she was my client, write down 20 things a day you like about yourself. That is way too much. Just start with one. One thing I like about myself. Don't try 20. A lot of people can write 20 things they hate about themselves. Don't go down there. Don't go down the what I don't like about myself route. Go into the what I like about myself route. And then really get it into yourself. And then walk through the world a little bit. I like myself. Go and order the coffee with a smile. Oh, I'd like a cappuccino, please. Try smiling.
Yes.
Oh, kind of fun. When you look around, mad, loony things happen in life. Just look around the street. Crazy things happen. It's funny. It's joyous.
Yeah. Just to throw it out to our viewers and listeners, pop in the chat something you like about yourself, and I'll share it on the screen.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
What do you like?
One thing you like about yourself, our regulars, you know who you are, because we always say hello to each other. If I'll shout you out, Elizabeth, Graham, I like my sexist sense of humour. Does that count? Elizabeth, Graham, Paul, and Liz, and Barry, and Robert, who've been commenting today. There we go. Straight in from New York, grit and determination.
Yeah, I love that. Grit, determination. You're going to win out, Elizabeth. You are. Well done.
And I imagine you need a whole bunch of that in New York.
Yeah.
But
great.
Over to you again,
okay,
Lucy.
I've got about 2 more minutes where I've got to go. You have choices, make different choices. Dark sense of humor from Paul. Yes, I like that. Humor's great. Laughing is brilliant.
I think humor and music are 2 of the greatest unitive and healing tools that we have on this planet.
Yeah, so that's great. We've got choices, make different choices. We are responsible for our choices. Never take anything too seriously. Yeah. Again, looking at things with a bit more of a kinder eye, humorous eye. So make different choices. The bowls clubs ladies enjoyed the show. And be rigorous about where you put your energies. So the final chapter gets a little bit more, a bit more hippy dippy about the universe and, nature and healing. And that's it. That's your lot.
Well, there's an affirmation that I thought of earlier, which seems to tie in. I live in an abundant universe. I always have everything I need. Or you could say you always are everything you need. And it's just a question of using these tools consciously, I suppose, rather than unconsciously hating on ourselves, consciously love ourselves. Flip it around the other way.
What I'd like to do after this book is a workbook, because there's so much of what you've just talked about, what we've talked about, that actually should be a workbook. a fun workbook though, but actually taking you through exercises. So this, because it is a practice. You do need to do it every day. Actually,
it's a muscle you've got to test, isn't it? Because we've got decades of conditioning to. Anyway, I'm mindful of your time. www.
Yes, let me come back again. We can go on forever. I can go on forever, actually. I'm sorry.
No, I enjoy talking to you, and I think it's really useful for our listeners and viewers. So I will certainly be inviting you back before long. Lucy Cavendish, extraordinaryrelationships.com. Thanks for being on again, Lucy. It's always lovely to see you. Good luck with the book. And keep in touch. And love yourself like your life depends on it.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye. Did you enjoy that show? I enjoyed that show. And I'm in no rush to finish, particularly looking at everything from a left field point of view. Yeah, I do enjoy that about you, Graham. Though you are a brave man putting a comment like that when we had the relationship coach on, but that did make me laugh, I have to say. So anything else that we like about ourselves, you're very welcome to stick it on there. Love to hear from you. I'm just going to pop something else on because we were talking about scammers earlier. If you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel, it's biffinbrothers.com, and there's Paul Cloud just seen some of these. There's plenty of dark and inappropriate humor on there because I don't just do the nice side. So that's on my YouTube channel. And there's 3 scam baiting instances on there where I've basically engineered some delicious karma for a scammer and made them look absolutely ridiculous. So if you want to see scammers get their own back, and I've committed no crime, they're trying to steal from me. All I'm doing is wasting their time, and in doing so, stopping them possibly stealing someone's money. So I think it's a fairly worthy thing to do. And as we say, humor is a great healer. So all the W's, biffinbrothers.com, if you'd like to check that out. Thank you for tuning in. Russ Kane is going to be back on Friday with Phil Dave, the lovely Chantal Rickards, Screen Queen, and Jonathan Baz, theatre critic. His black book it's a magical little black book. One day I'm going to steal it and go and visit all these wonderful people. Not really. But Russ will be back on Friday. I'll see you next Monday, and I'm back with my own show on Wednesday. Love you, hug you, squeeze you. Just before we go, last minute comments. Where's my damn cursor gone? There it is. Yeah, can you remind me what the Buddhist saying was that you mentioned? My friend is a Buddhist. I will ask her about the saying. Graham, if you want me to know about scammers, send me 50 quid and I'll tell you. The phrase was, I'll lost. Goodness. I'm in the stream with audio only. Sorry about that. We just lost out for a second. Paul, the phrase was weep with one eye for you. And in the way that I interpret that, it basically means having compassion for someone, but not taking on their pain. It's kind of another version of put your own oxygen mask on before you pick your favorite child kind of thing, before you help anyone else, that kind of thing. So I hope you can hear me. Sorry about that. That was my fault. I thought I plugged my computer in and I hadn't. And now I should be back on screen in a minute. It doesn't matter. It's time to finish the show anyway. So we'll leave that with Graham's message on there. Never take anything too seriously. Monty Python said, always look on the bright side of life. Weep with one eye was the Buddhist phrase. It means put your own oxygen mask on first. biffinbrothers.com. If you'd like to check out my YouTube channel and watch me give scammers some karma, and Russ Kane and Co. back on Friday. Have an absolutely brilliant day. Good afternoon. And thank you so very much.